The Pentagon could cancel the Joint Enterprise Defense Infrastructure contract after 2 years of bid protests. Defense Department officials say they might cancel it if a judge agrees to hear arguments from Amazon Web Services about political interference. Larry Korb is senior fellow at the Center for American Progress. He's former Assistant Secretary of Defense for Manpower, Reserve Affairs, Installations, and Logistics. Larry, you have a historical scope on things like this that not many people in Washington have. Have you seen anything that compares to where JEDI has gone over the last 2-3 years?
No, I've never seen anything like this. Right before the contract was to be awarded, the President of the United States, then Donald Trump, came out and said, I hope you don't give it to Amazon. And then, of course, when they had the award and it didn't go to Amazon, which a lot of people thought it would. In fact, going in, everybody just assumed that Amazon would get this, given their leadership in this whole area of cloud computing. And so then they went to court. And the interesting thing is, it wasn't Amazon that went to court the first time. It was Oracle, who was another one of the bidders. And then, of course, the Pentagon did it over, and they came out and said, that Microsoft won again. And then we found out that during the process that one of the people involved used to work for Amazon. So, I mean, it really is very, very complicated and different than anything I've ever seen.
You speak bureaucratese at the Defense Department far more fluently than I do, so please correct my translation. I read this in this info paper, which I've never seen anything quite like before. The prospect of such a lengthy litigation process, if the court denies this motion to dismiss count 4 of Amazon's claims regarding improper influence, might bring the future of the JEDI cloud procurement into question. Under this scenario, DoD CIO would reassess the strategy moving forward. Is that a translation, in your view, for cancellation?
No, I think what it is either, you people let us make the decision that we want, or we're going to cancel it and nobody will win. And their concern is that if the court decides that they're going to have to redo the process again or have lengthy hearings, that our readiness will suffer. Because after all, this is very critical to the men and women who are defending this country, both at home and abroad. And, we're over 2 years behind already. And we do have some capabilities in the various departments and services that could go ahead. But it will not be as good if they don't have the one cloud computing contract.
That's where I wanted to go next, Larry. Dana Deasy said on a number of occasions that JEDI at any given time would only be about 10% of the total cloud capacity of the Department of Defense. What else could the department build, or where else could they draw from without having to get this capability, without having to build this whole different new thing?
Well, what they'd have to do is the various agencies that are involved in this and the services are going to have to do it themselves. But we find out that, while we have separate services and agencies, we really fight as one group. And so you want to have something that integrates everything, because you don't want things to fall through the cracks.
Does starting this over again make sense from a defense procurement perspective in your experience, Larry, or does modifying this somehow ultimately get a better outcome for the warfighter, which is the point of this in the first place?
Well, starting over, again, it depends on how long you can go. I mean, you say we're going to start over and we're going to do it in 3 months and we're going to go ahead and look at the complaints that the judges made. But it really depends upon what the decision of the court is and what things that they want, whether they're going to get involved again before this contract gets awarded.
Help me understand this info paper and the significance of it. As I said, I'm certainly not the expert that you are, but I haven't seen a paper like this where the department basically says to Congress, if this happens, we'll do this. If this happens, we'll do this. Are these a normal way of communicating between the department and the Hill, or is this an unusual circumstance for an unusual case?
Well, this is an unusual circumstance. I mean, usually when you're awarding a contract, say, to build a plane or a ship or something like that, you get it solved pretty quickly. But what they're saying, this could drag out in the courts for years. And if it does, this is what we're going to do, because our main job is, while this may not be perfect, we can get 90% of what we need to deal with everything that the clouds would give us.
We have about 30 seconds left, Larry. What will you watch moving forward?
Well, what I would like is a secretary. We got a new Secretary of Defense and a new deputy to come in and say, this is what we're going to do and this is why we're going to do it. I think that the Secretary of Defense or the Deputy Secretary ought to hold a press conference and announce exactly what they're going to do going forward, because this thing has just dragged on too long.
Larry Korb, thanks very much as always. Great to have you back.
Thanks for having me.